Hello and welcome to episode 165 of the Foundry Roundtable, a podcast exclusively covering the Foundry for Star Trek Online. Although, as I recently pointed out on Twitter, we violate that like all the time. I could change that spiel, which I developed like for episode 1 way back, years and years ago, but whatever.
Yeah,
so anyway, I am, of course, your massive liar, Drogan1701. And with me are guys who only ever tell the truth. Markhawkman, Greendragoon, and DuncanIdaho.
I only tell the truth when it's advantageous. If I can make a personal profit from it, then I'll tell the truth. Otherwise, I'm always lying.
Well, what is it Garrick says? Lying is a skill like any other. It takes practice.
Yeah, he did say that at least once.
I'm not DuncanIdaho. I am I'm an Admiral Aaron Twitter bot.
Your sole purpose in life is just to like every Stowe-related tweet.
Indeed.
All right, well, let's get right into it because there's quite a bit of news. So we have a winner for our Foundry Challenge number 2, which is Atlas's Infinity by XR377. So congrats to XR. We had 3 weeks for voting, and we actually had votes for every one of the 3 entries, which is excellent. Not quite as many votes as we got for the AEI challenge, but that's okay. These things ebb and flow. Our next challenge will have a bit more ramp up, so maybe we'll get more people interested during the process, and they'll be engaged in it and want to vote. Because, of course, we're going to do our 26th century thing, which we're going to develop maps people can use and characters people can use and the setting and everything. So, but in any case, we gave out prizes for the winner and the runner-up, and then I had a little consolation prize for everybody that had some codes for the mirror runabouts if they didn't have one. So let's see, what else? We had some unexpected Foundry downtime and a republish earlier this week. Do we know if every mission has been put back up yet?
Purity 6 has not.
Well, that is another issue. there's something preventing that one from republishing because it's a Spotlight. I can't get in and edit it, so I'm working behind the scenes to try and get that one back up.
Very good. Very good.
I did note that this was accompanied by some missions being automatically depublished completely. And of course, for all of those who want to be notified by mail when one of their missions gets depublished, feel free to log into Champions Online and check your in-game mail.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if the Foundry's completely back up. We still don't have the top 3 system.
Yeah.
It's down for a while. But I don't think publishing has been turned back on yet, and I don't think reviewing has been turned back on yet either. But that might have changed today.
Yeah. The editor is definitely working.
The editor is back, yeah.
The editor is back, though, and I've been working a little bit in that.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that recently they've been kind of doing something where they open up the editor before a republish is complete and then just disable publishing.
Yeah.
Which is probably good.
Yeah, because it just gives us more time to work, so it's less of a disturbance when we have that big downtime.
All right, so we wanted to give a shout out to a YouTube series that Duncan discovered. So go ahead with that.
Yeah,
Duncan.
I can take it this one. The YouTube channel is called Legions of Myth, and they've been doing a bunch of games, but they've recently been focusing, or a couple of their hosts have been focusing on Star Trek Online, and in particular, the Foundry. So they've gone through a lot of missions at this point. They've gone through recently a string of mine, but they've also done the Purity series, This Far No Further. I think it was called, what was it? Something Before Bounty. Oh, crap. But anyway, it's all on YouTube. They've got their channel. They've also do occasional Twitch streams, but they do a really good run through the Foundry, really high quality. They do a complete narration between their two guys, and they also provide feedback through the mission. So this is actually a really good way for authors to sort of check in to see how people experience a Foundry mission real time And also, you have a lot of fun watching it, too. So it's Legion of Myth with Heathen Dog and Garthon. So these two guys have been putting a lot of work into this, and it's been a really good show. It's really entertaining to see them go through. It's almost like it kind of reminds me a little bit of Mystery Science Theater, a little bit more than our beloved Zero runs, which are just great theater in itself.
Cool.
So, and we kind of discovered through them that the Foundry teaming bug, which would send you to different instances when you change maps, might have gone away.
Yeah, because they've done 39 episodes, fewer Foundry missions since they sort of leave their episodes to like hour-long or half-hour to an hour-long chunks. But they've gone through the entire thing, never losing. With two players playing Foundry missions simultaneously, they haven't lost, at least on what they've shown, they haven't been bounced out yet. So with
good news,
the back-end updates to the queue system, we might have, and presumably teaming, we might have also gotten the teaming bug taken care of. But we'll be investigating that at a later
That's something we want to check out sometime soon.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I hope they fix is the map transfer bug that you get when you try to go from map A to map B while in preview mode, because that one is a pretty bad one.
Yeah, that makes things a little harder to test out. But my biggest one right now is the objective trigger bug, where you have to be putting in a lot of optional dialogue prompts to be able to test a series of objectives. Because for some reason, they'll occasionally break in the editor.
Yeah.
So speaking of that map transfer bug, Mark, you said you were listening in on some Neverwinter Foundry guys, and they were talking about that one.
Well, I pay attention to a Facebook discussion page that's both the Stowe and Neverwinter Foundry, and it happened to mention that they've been having a similar issue in Neverwinter that's cropped up recently.
So if I can interrupt for just a second, one of the things we're going to do tonight is do all the Risa events as they pop up. So everybody run over to the powerboard race now.
30 seconds! 30 seconds as I'm speaking this for people listening on the stream delay. Good luck. Maybe you'll get in the next one.
We'll see.
Well, it's 30 seconds before the second.
And then there's another minute, yeah. So anyway, while we're waiting for that to start, Mark, go ahead. What were they saying over at Neverwinter?
One of the things was that, well, one, that they had that bug pop up where you can't transfer while you're in preview mode. Two is that apparently the Neverwinter devs have actually gotten at least some of the bugs they've had pop up recently fixed. I don't remember the
Maybe
exact
that could
details.
filter down to Stowe.
Well, these are things that are specific to Neverwinter, though.
Yeah, but I get the impression that there's some shared hardware.
Yeah.
The fact that it did pass along to the Neverwinter Foundry makes me think, there's some shared hardware going on there.
Well, one of the
least on the
biggest
back end.
bugs that Neverwinter is currently having is their asset database apparently got corrupted, and the devs haven't fixed it yet.
Oh.
Oof.
Yeah.
So I have a question. It was brought up to me that you are no longer able to beam out of a mission when you're in the edit mode.
That's a function of the map transfer bug I was referring to.
Yeah,
earlier.
I was wondering if that was similar.
Yeah. And you also, I don't think you can also start a mission play from beginning and using the sector block.
Yeah.
Exactly, because it prevents your Foundry character from doing any map transfers while in preview mode.
Okay, so that's definitely.
I think we're all going to get quiet here for a second.
Yeah.
As we're racing.
See, part of the reason why this is something I'm paying so much attention to is the fact that it means that my Foundry
I just went totally off course.
To go to Q's Winter Wonderland because of the fact that you can't do the play from start thing to get to Q's Winter Wonderland.
Which you probably can't get here either.
Actually, you can set the start point of a mission to one of the beach chairs on Risa.
But that would be the old Risa map, right? Or is that the new one?
No, it's the new one.
Oh, it is.
Wait, when did we have objects on the new map?
That was last year.
Long time ago.
I think I remember us talking about us getting Foundry context here and speculating that the old map would be going away.
I veered off too far and I get disqualified.
Yeah,
I jumped almost vertical there. That's gonna slow me down.
I completely bailed on that one. So that was like I just basically flew into the forest.
You passed me.
In first place.
Okay, so what do we got? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, the Stig. Next, we got the Horgan.
Actually, I'm on my Miranda Myers character, the Captain of the Infinity.
Ah.
Who I'd like to point out that none of the 3 entries in the series actually allowed you to rescue her or the crew.
Oh yeah.
Well,
okay. Mirror of Infinity did in a way.
In a way, but not entirely.
There was one of the original crew still left alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's move along to that. We're going to do a review of Mirror of Infinity tonight. Wanted to sort of review the missions while the voting was still going, but we did not get a chance to do that because Dragoon didn't completely tell me in long advance that he was going to be gone for a week, but that's all right.
Well, it's kind of a last minute thing.
I'm okay to blame you for things.
Oh,
I'm sorry. All Foundry Roundtable vacations have to be notified 30 days in advance.
Because of course none of them are ever. We never do that. Pretty much like a week in advance. So anyway, Mirror of Infinity. It's you've probably played this more recently than any of us. So why don't you kind of take us through it and you will chime in.
All right. So it starts out. You are sent by Tanae to investigate a disturbance out in the Denobula sector. So you arrive there and are promptly sucked into this pocket universe. It's basically a region of such space that really only has like a planet in it and not much else. There you find not only the USS Infinity, but also her twin from the Mirror universe, the ISS Infinity. So you, not having an immediate way out, you beam over to the USS Infinity and find in their engine room a dead engineer and what
some sort
looked
of
to be
experiment.
Yeah, basically it looked to be what he called a Upsilon field generator, which I was kind of wondering if he meant Epsilon, but then again, it's
Upsilon
made
is
it's
the thing.
Upsilon is a
There is
thing.
actually a Greek letter named Upsilon.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Epsilon and Upsilon both.
I only know that because I had that very question one time, long ago.
Well, either or. It's a made up.
I thought it was typo too. Like
It's a made up
10 years ago,
substance,
it kind of-
or it's a made up thing. So it's not. You could call it whatever he
technobabble.
wants.
the Solar generator,
Yeah, pretty much.
which
The
is Planet
X-Gun.
Outer Space joke.
Anyway, so you basically find that they were trying to find this way back to the own universe, but at the time they basically didn't have their technology was not refined enough to calibrate it properly, and so it blew up in their faces and killed the engineer. You did find logs that say that the crew beamed down to the planet to basically survive. And so you decide to beam down there and find the descendants of the Infinity crew and quickly find out that they have been in basically almost 100-year like series of skirmishes with their Mirror Universe counterparts.
Apparently, it's been mostly limited to angry gesturing and occasionally taking pot shots at each other because their bases were rather far apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did kind of notice that there was like no
close enough
walls
that
or
there's,
anything.
like constant conflict. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Well,
But obviously, people were all still alive after 150
Yeah.
years, so it must not have been too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And that's
they're basically hostile rivals. So while
Yeah.
they may not have been fighting throughout that whole time, they definitely weren't friendly.
yeah, that's what my take on it was, is that they're, shall we say, unhappy to see each other, but they're not really like actively trying to kill each other all that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently one of the raids happened just before you get there. So I mean, they're single survivors.
So now we're in the Horgon hunt time.
Yeah, and now is the part where I have to split my attention.
Flying around.
Yeah.
Can you
So-
talk and fly around at the same time?
We'll
In any
see.
case, obviously these two groups have been fighting for years, and you start by talking to the Federation crew.
So yeah,
And-
basically, you from the logs of the on the ship, you conclude that the way to get back there's this odd symmetry between the Prime Universe and Mirror Universe, and that the only way to get back is to basically get both ships to activate this experiment at the same time, and it'll open portals to both universes. But you
But of course,
basically
to do
need
that,
someone.
You got to get the cooperation of the Mirror crew.
Yeah.
And of course, synchronize the two Upsilon devices.
They're not really going to be inclined to help you, though.
Yeah, so you basically trek it over
It's-
or beam over to their site, and they basically find out that they have their own set of grievances against the Federation site. Basically, they feel that the Federation types were in a better situation and withheld.
Hoarding the resources, and yeah.
Yeah. So they're all mad and don't want to cooperate, and so your solution is to basically get them in a meeting and you mediate. Very Starfleet.
Of course, that also goes hilariously because of the way that the two groups interact with each other, because, well, they're mirror of each other.
So yeah, he does this.
Their counterparts like to argue with each other.
Yeah, he does this interesting thing
which is
where
fine,
once you get the two groups together to start talks, they basically start airing their grievances at each other, and it goes from starting with the captain. It goes from the prime captain talking, and then the mirror captain rebuttaling, and then it goes back and forth with going down with each of the officers, prime, then the counterpart, prime, then the counterpart, prime, then the counterpart, and so it kind of does this interesting little back and forth, like kind of almost showcasing off all the different players and the characters and their
the
counterparts
costume
in play.
variation.
It-
Yeah.
And he definitely had a lot of fun, like coming up with the counterparts to.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with the characters there, because of course these are the descendants of the original crew. Kind of like it reminded me of that episode of Enterprise where they meet themselves who have been trapped in the Expanse for however many years, and it's their descendants, or the other the DS9 episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you find the the distant descendants of the crew of the Defiant after
got sent back in time
Yeah.
and trapped on a planet.
Well, it's interesting and kind of plays back into this idea that the Mirror Universe and Prime Universe are linked, and that's why things tend to be so similar despite some radical
Why we
differences.
keep crossing over to that specific universe.
Yeah, but I mean, even why, for instance, there's a Ben Sisko in the Mirror Universe, despite the vastly different histories.
Yeah.
In the Mirror Universe, the prophets apparently didn't guide him to become the emissary at all.
But they still interfered or there was some circumstance that still allowed him to be born.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things about that, though, is that apparently the way it works is that the mirror Actually, you know what? I don't think they actually stated this in the TV show. This is one of the things that they put in Stowe, but I don't think it was actually in the original TV show. Never mind.
So one of the things I liked about this concept and is the author actually kind of points out the flaws in his concept intentionally by basically the mirror captain pointing out that you do not have a duplicate here, and so you kind of have to admit that the symmetry is not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if the symmetry was perfect, you wouldn't be able to have them be two separate universes at all.
Yeah. But anyway,
the issue with the mirror universe is that the further you go in time, the more the differences would compound upon each other.
Yeah.
And the universes
go far enough, and you would not have any counterparts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they end up with more counterparts than non-counterparts somehow.
Yeah, and it's kind of reflected in this mission because all the descendants have counterparts. So despite the fact that these people were born on this planet and interacting, the same people apparently still get together and still have the same offspring all the way down to the like 3 or 4 generations in.
It's like a TV show cast is being reused for a fun episode.
Yeah, but I mean, I like that he kind of brings what is essentially just a kind of a writing trope to kind of make things easier and actually tries to bring in some kind of explanation for it.
Yeah, and I liked how, like, with the characters too, because the argument that the older, like, the surviving Vulcan Infinity Crew members are having with each other, the two counterparts, it's ultimately resolved by the kids sort of saying, okay,
yeah, this is like what the 3rd or 4th generation, these two kids that you can kind of see are not as entrenched in the conflict as their elders.
Yeah, so they're the ones who say, like, okay, we need to actually start cooperating. It's stupid to keep holding this feud against our prospects of escaping. So I thought that was an interesting sort of flip on the mirror universe because it does bring them together rather than just sort of compound how they're just opposed to each other.
It's one of those things where you just kind of like look at it, I guess you could say logically, and like, wait a second, that didn't work when you guys tried it, so let's do something different.
Yeah, so eventually we start cooperating and try to re-engage that experiment of synchronizing those two upflon generators from the Infinities.
Yeah. So that goes mostly as planned. You do have a quick little skirmish when the security officers on the mirror ship decide to try and rebel and take you down. Which you,
of course, you
wipe the floor with.
Don't trust you, and
universe. He's
being,
like, I can take your ship and be a much better. Yeah, it's mostly just a backstab. So you leave once everything's set up, and you get the portals open, and you're all set to go back. And Mirror Tanae shows up. And this is kind of key because Tanae is the mission giver for this, so she's the one who sent you on this. And apparently in the Mirror universe, they did the same thing, except Tanae decided that your counterpart couldn't handle it and just came herself. And that's kind of his way of getting around doing like a mirror version of yourself.
Yeah,
because she's your counterpart.
It's always tricky to try and somehow include the player's Mirror universe counterpart. The way I did it,
because costumes.
Exactly. The way I did it in mine was I had basically you set a trap for your Mirror universe counterpart because you were going to take their place. Only you did it remotely, so you never had to see them.
Yeah. I mean, I really like this because it kind of reinforced that idea of symmetry, but at the same time was a nice hand wave to get around having to show the player.
And also there's the whole acknowledgement of the fact that the symmetry isn't exact. It's kind of, loose and fluid sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's also, goes along with the characterization of people from the universe that they're very ambitious. They're mistrusting of their fellow officers. So this Tanae is not going to entrust this mission to your counterpart.
But yeah, overall, it was a clever bit of writing, and it was, yeah, I mean, good work.
Yeah, definitely.
That more or less finishes.
It is a solid Mirror Universe installment for sure.
Yeah.
It hits all the right notes for a Mirror Universe story.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say is on the ground maps, there was enough there to sort of sell the setting, just to say, hey, this is a planet, this is a settlement. But it was kind of the minimum, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a settlement as represented by 3 buildings. So there's definitely a lot more that would go on for especially a permanent habitation where people have been living for a while. Maybe there's some defensive fortifications because they've been raiding each other.
Yeah, barricades and stuff.
Walls, water pumps, crates, barrels, other types of living accommodations. Just a lot of junk, too. There could have been a lot more.
My biggest gripe with the set design is that it felt too much like something that you'd have a recently built actual professional construction job, and not like the sort of thing that would get built by people that were just cobbling it together using whatever bits of stuff they happened to find laying around.
Yeah. I think the Romulan colony buildings, I think they worked for the purpose, but it's just it just was missing scenery. And the way the map structure was is that you had the 2 settlements, but to get between them, you had to do map transfers. And there were a couple transitions there. The maps are large enough that we could, and the asset limits enough that you could have, the author could have built them on the same map, and just had the player walk from one to another.
He did actually have a good reason for it, though, because his explanation is that the 2 settlements are actually not within easy walking distance of each other. That there's something like, I don't know, some number of
map
miles.
Transition, it is a way to kind of show the passage of time a little bit.
Yeah, I just think that that explanation was, Starbuck just destroyed my sandcastle.
You can now get a non-combat pet sandcastle.
Or it's like an emote. Yeah, so you're just sort of you build a sandcastle anywhere. But yeah, anyway though, it just felt for me that the sort of put that writing of putting him distant was more a way of explaining the map transition. I didn't necessarily think it added a whole lot to the story, such that he could have gone for a more ambitious build. And this was Zep Goodwin who developed this mission, so he's a relatively new author, and we kind of noticed this on.
You and I played his last mission, and we noticed that the story was very, very good, and the dialogue was very well written, and he just hadn't done as much with the maps.
Yeah,
and I think that plays through a little bit this time. I think he's done more this time, so I think he's growing that skill. But that's obviously something in the future he can keep working on.
That's one of the number one signs of someone who's a new Foundry author, though, is that they just don't have the skill required to make awesome looking maps.
Yeah, although a lot of
that develops, and you got to experiment with it a lot.
Yeah.
Most
cases.
I will say,
personally, it's just one of those things where I just spent a lot of time tinkering with things like, oh, so what happens if I do this, 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 and this? And eventually, I figured out a lot of things that previously I just didn't get. And is it me, or are the Risa flowers bigger than they were last year?
So, I mean, I just want to say that I really liked this mission, and I definitely enjoy a mission that has a solid story more than I do a mission that has pretty maps.
Yeah.
But bad story. And so I think this guy is a solid author. I think he's made a great start, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with, because I mean, as he builds his rapport for map building, I mean, his missions are only going to get better.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, that's one of those things. It's like, which would you choose if you had to choose only one? I would definitely go with story, because looking at pretty maps, it's not really a mission if it's just pretty maps.
The story is where the more entertainment value will come from.
But your maps can also contribute a lot to the to the story builds, because there's some missions that I've done where I focused on the story, but the story was very enhanced by the ability to make some pretty elaborate map work.
Mhm.
And Johnny Snowball's another great example of someone who can really enhance a story with a map builder. So you can treat them as two things that go along with each other as well as separate aspects.
Yeah.
But it's still a very good place to be starting from when you are able to do this kind of caliber of stories in your first few missions.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier picking up the map editor than it is picking up the writing discipline, because that's basically all the English language in the human storytelling tradition. Because you can't.
As Foundry authors, we come to this with a lot of very different backgrounds. Not probably very few of us are writers in real life. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm not a fiction writer, though. I only have very little experience with that from college, basically.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I had writing experience, but none of it was creative writing.
Time for the biathlon.
Yay.
Star Far Theta's sand monument structure it exploded. I was just going to say, it's safe, and then I spoke too soon. Oh, man, this is going to be... wait. This might be bad for me, because I still don't have the superior floater on this.
No,
actually,
I don't either, so I'm not...
Wait, but I might have...
I'm using a standard floater. I actually
Didn't
haven't bought anything other than standard floaters.
Does anyone have one favor?
I have one. I have a couple of favors.
Okay, I'm at 999. Oh, well, we need to...
You're not going to have enough time to go back and buy a...
15 seconds, no.
Okay, so I haven't quite been able to figure this one out yet. How exactly do you transition?
Oh, you land on the beach, and then once you're out, you go through...
Don't transition until you clear the ramp, because for some stupid reason it'll disqualify you if you...
Yeah, that's what happened to me earlier.
Yeah, I've been able to go through this once, and I somehow got second, because I think so many other people got disqualified. But yeah, it's for me, I just try not to jump the gun on the transition. Oh, yeah. The Widowmaker.
Oh, and remember this corner, that one's annoying.
Yeah, because everyone goes one way, and then it just sort of snowballs.
So do you have to get off the power board and then get onto the...
Well,
you can actually just activate the floater. It's just that you'll fall out of the sky and before the floater actually properly activates. Oh, this is going to hurt.
Dang it. I think I might have just got disqualified because I just bounced off the ramp. No, I'm still good. It's like
still going.
Yeah, I just bounced off the ramp and off the course. So, let's see where this goes.
Hanging wide.
Oh yeah. It's always like you almost
go back. Have to backtrack and get it into that first line.
That's another one that always happens to me is that I have to go back to get to the ring because I go careening underneath the ring because my momentum carries me.
Yeah. Starbuck has the fancy floater, so he's going to probably win.
Yeah, I'm just poodling along here with the basic one because through all my
I like to get other stuff.
I got 900 and y'all. That's actually been my strategy for all previous years. So I only have one character with even an enhanced floater because it really doesn't matter except for the competitive things, and it only matters now.
This is the only one.
Yeah, I would argue that it matters incredibly.
And anyone
for the,
who logs
Torg
hunt,
in, yeah, because you can get to that a lot quicker. But here, yeah, you definitely need that faster floater.
Couple of.
But I mean, the power boards are easy because we have the future flyer.
Yeah, because we're just sort of good with that one. It's like, we're good.
It's
just
yeah. It was nice of them to give away the one of the top boards.
I know. That was awesome.
Yeah, and as a count unlock.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say getting the superior floater is absolutely worth it because it makes the daily grind, just that much easier.
See, the thing that I would really want them for most is
I got third.
Being able to cycle multiple characters through Horgon Hunt.
Yeah, because that one you basically, if you get
there is enough time to get at least 2 and potentially 3.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay,
no.
Somewhere along the line I got
Best
disqualified.
Is 5.
It didn't tell me where though.
You can do 5 if you're really good at it. That though requires you to have the best floaters use the tribble to boost your flight speed, and also pre-position all of your characters so that you log in with the character standing at one of the starting points for the route you're going to take collecting Horgons.
Okay. Actually, I realized that the stack, I got 999 favors plus 3 because they don't stack beyond 1,000.
So you can afford one.
I can't afford one, so now it's just choice of color. Gotta go white because I've been doing Starfleet.
Bloodleaf WoW in our chat room, who is also Spiritborn on the Foundry on the forums, brings up that some authors come to the Foundry as non-native English speakers, and some of them are doing English Foundry missions. Some of them are doing we've seen Spanish, we've seen tons and tons of German ones as well. So obviously you got some authors who might not be 100% familiar with the language.
Whoosh! I just got my superior flutter.
The Stowe has a surprisingly robust German Foundry community.
Yeah. We see them come on the forum sometimes and post pictures of the maps they build, which are just awesome.
And on a few rare occasions, we've actually done reviews of German missions on the Roundtable. Like I said, it's not common, but it has happened.
Well, because unfortunately, I don't think any of us speak German, right?
I know a little German.
I've got basically like a kindergartner or first grader vocabulary of German. Ich kann ein Deutsch sprechen ein bisschen, aber ich habe nur 3 deutsche Klasse an the University of Illinois.
Mine is not quite conversational. I'm one of those people that when I read stuff, I can pick out bits and pieces of it.
It's actually probably easier with German than with a lot of languages because so much of English comes from German.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ich flog über die Berge. I'm flying over the mountain.
The only German that I know comes from looking up the lyrics to Rammstein songs. So. Anyway.
Well, that's one place to start, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the first things I actually seriously made an effort to attempt to translate was, believe it or not, comic books. Sometime in the past, I picked up a handful of German comic books that were from Gespenster. It's kind of like Twilight Zone kind of stuff in comic book form. It's the best way I can think of to explain it. Because it's all stories that are, not what you would consider like normal day-to-day life.
So now we got the artifact hunt.
So now it's a race of who can get it done first.
So I have to use the map on this one, the map that people have created and posted on Reddit.
Mm.
I did discover that it doesn't. The little direction thing doesn't show up unless you're close to the ground.
Yeah, so I do a lot of transitioning between on ground and on foot.
Believe it or not, this is actually one of those where under certain circumstances, it's actually more efficient to use a power board to get from point A to point B than it is to use a floater. Simply because of the fact that depending on your power board, your board may be faster, and I'm using a basic floater. You see where this is going.
Yeah.
I like to have got one real close.
Yeah.
The indicator seems very spastic.
Yeah, it's like I think it's using pathing. I think because that's as best as I could say. It's trying to path to a through least distance, and over hilly terrain, it can get kind of wonky. So I just go for consistency. So if I see one pointing all the way to the side, suddenly it's like, okay, that's probably not it.
Well, it's one of those things where it has a large margin of error, and when you see it go in drastically different directions like that, then you can relatively quickly narrow down the margin of error.
I think I'm pretty close now.
I mean, because it's one of those things where, like, one time it points 30 degrees to the left, the next time it points 20 degrees to the right. You split the difference, and that's closer to what you actually want than either of them.
Yeah.
Probably.
And also I got it. The other thing I've noticed is that it tends to also be a little bit more wonky when you're on more steep terrain. So if you want to get consistent results, go for flat terrain. Because I think it's just like when you're slightly above or slightly below for the scanning target, it can get a little weird. So anyway, though, it's just one of those things where you sort of take the indicator as an advisement, and it can be pretty tricky to sort out. So yeah, definitely the map on Reddit is useful if you can keep that open at the same time.
There's also a copy of it on the StoWiki. Another thing that I do is triangulation, although that's one of those things where if you're in certain parts of the map, triangulation is a lot more useful than others. Where I just started, I was standing dead center in the volcano, and triangulation would be most useful in that situation if I was going to be going in the general direction of the resort or the promenade, or maybe Quinn's Camp. However, I was going to the west, which is away from all three of those places, so it wouldn't have helped all that much.
So with the Risa event, of course, comes a new ship, new playable ship anyway. This ship's actually been in the game for quite a while as an NPC, and in the Foundry.
And unlike previous years, they did not put it parked in the water. It is actually floating above the water.
Was the frigate the
Namby, I think, was parked.
Vorgon frigate? The Nandy was in the water.
Yeah,
was the Vorgon frigate?
The Xiphias. Yeah.
I don't remember
remember
seeing that thing at all.
It's possible it might not have been on the ground scale at all.
The Rincoden, you can see it. It is there, and it is big.
Yeah.
And it's a nice looking ship.
It might be showing. Yeah, it might be doing double duty or something in Epoch Part 2. I was like, oh, crap. People are going to recognize that. But I was like, oh, at this point, it actually just kind of works a little too well for the design. I'm going, it's like, no, I kind of got to use it. It does look good.
Dragoon came up with a whole other use for it as well.
I
think he's busy.
Or he's muted himself.
No, I mean, yes, I do have a kind of this concept for a alien race that basically fled their home galaxy. So it's kind of a Battlestar Galactica type scenario, where it's the last of their kind. And so the idea was they eventually cross the void between galaxies over generations, and finally found the Federation, and they were able to get a new home planet from them.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any squeaking in the background, it's just a cat.
Is it AI Judge Cat?
AI Judge Cat just woke up from her nap.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, she did not have to do her judging duty this time either.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. One of these days we might have a tie.
She's still in good shape.
So we have 8 minutes till the next event still.
Yeah, I'm actually doing my daily.
Okay, so question for you guys. So say someone came up with a Foundry mission, do a Foundry mission that somehow revolves around Risa in the summer event. What kind of mission would you make? What sort of plot?
Okay, I'm just going to have to... Okay, I threw this up on Twitter before the show, but I'm going to have to send this to you guys. So, my answer will be in a screenshot form in just a few minutes here, if Dragoon has time to be able to put this on the chat sheet.
He still hasn't found his thing yet.
Still scanning for artifacts.
Okay, so I might not even have to say anything for that one. But anyway, I got my answer. So, I guess Mark?
Well, what seems... There's several different things that pop into my head. Is like doing something like some sort of like a murder mystery or something like that. Because, that fits the setting relatively nicely. Then, of course, there's what they did in TNG, which, okay, that also works.
And what they did in DS9, which I didn't think worked at all.
No.
That was kind of a terrible episode.
Yeah, that was one of those things you're like, okay, so...
You get to watch an episode of Worf being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that would be interesting is exploring the... I guess you could say details of how the Risa planetary... terraforming isn't the right word. Word for it, but
artificial environment control. Yeah.
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 And what if somebody sabotaged it?
Yeah.
There's also actually part of the plot of that DS9 episode, as I'm recalling now.
Yeah. There's also the Enterprise episode too, where miscellaneous things happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was one where it's kind of hard to remember plot.
It didn't really have one. So the
Well, it
Enterprise
had
one
it was just a lets everybody relax and everybody have little different things they get caught up in. And
yeah, they built it up for like 5 episodes, and then it was a good character piece, but for some of them, and then there was a point of intrigue with Archer and the Temporal, the sort of the other players in the local time frame for the Temporal Cold War.
Was that actually a Temporal Cold War episode? Jeez.
Yeah, because it wasn't like directly, but it was basically one of the groups who were sort of like trying to, basically invest.
Oops, I think we lost.
Yay!
Duncan
Finally.
Anyway,
not saying finally that Duncan shut up, but saying finally that you got your artifact, right?
Yes. Oh, Duncan's gone?
So, yeah. Duncan does
does
talk a lot, but we wouldn't, have him on the show if he didn't. So
I'm pretty sure that's why we brought him on.
Well, one of the things that was interesting was the sheer number of Temporal Cold War episodes.
Yeah,
there's quite a few of them, but it still remains sort of a weirdly and not all that well realized idea in the long run.
Yeah, because it never went anywhere.
Well, it did kind of go somewhere. It's just one of those things.
We never found
Not
anything
until
about the
stuff.
antagonists. But
see, because
we never found out who Future Guy was.
Yeah, there were certain things that were left unresolved, but there were also certain things that were resolved, such as they did eventually explain why so many different people were after Archer from other points in the timeline, and that's because these were people who were enemies of the Federation in general, and were hoping that if they killed Archer and destroyed the NX, that it would cause the Federation to be erased from history. Which, plausible.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff
I'm trying to think of
just
my own
random
answer.
weirdness, though.
I'm trying to think of my own answer to my own question. I think, obviously Risa being a water planet, I think it could give you an opportunity to do stuff on the ocean or under the ocean.
so you take a cruise and get lost at sea.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. You get lost at sea.
Or you have to recover a crashed spaceship or something.
Or the weather modification net fails and get caught in a squall on a 3-hour tour.
3-hour tour.
Yeah, you could definitely do a Gilligan's Island parody.
That would be pretty funny. Especially since you can kind of like just use the excuse to just go completely nuts with whatever the additional challenges you're facing on this stranded island are. Like, for example, a Klingon rival finally takes the opportunity to try to take you down, but you have to face down a Klingon assault party with things you built out of coconuts.
And of course, you have to, build a subspace radio out of coconuts. Something really absurd.
Yeah.
Transporter.
Or, yeah, just kind of like, you can almost kind of like do a sort of a riff on Kirk fighting the Gorn. where like, oh, you could also use like military turrets. Like one of the people with you builds a tank out of bamboo and coconuts.
Like trying to fashion a subspace radio out of copper deposits or something.
Well, I actually saw something kind of like that in a TV show once, where some kid from another planet stranded on Earth, and he comes up with some way to create a beacon that's visible from a light year away, I think. Granted, probably very faintly visible, but still. By taking he didn't just use random rocks. He's like, okay, he carefully chose the rocks and like arranged them in a special pattern so that the Earth's geomagnetic field would, I guess you could say, like swirl as it flowed past the rocks, thus creating sort of like an electromagnetic disturbance that would be visible from a long ways away.
In other words, magic.
It does come across as magic, yes. I mean, it's theoretically possible. It's just one of those things where calculating how to do that with random rocks is, wow.
It's funny because a lot of the stuff that you do see in sci-fi could be classified as it's basically the same principle as magic in other fiction. It's just it has a technobabble explanation instead of it's just magic explanation.
And of course, there's a lot of things where the reality of it is that no one would ever be able to do that simply because of the fact that pulling it off like he did realistically requires you to be able to see the results of what you're doing as you're piling the stuff together in some way or fashion in real time. Otherwise, you're just going to pile rocks on top of each other and it won't work.
Okay, so how about this for another idea? These indie aquatics have moved into the oceans of Risa and they don't want to leave.
That doesn't necessarily sound like a problem unless they do it in like massive numbers.
The Risans don't want them there.
Yeah. Well, they could also be bringing in other species too, so you get an invasive problem.
Yeah.
What do indie aquatics eat?
Exactly.
Yeah, they just bring in
they could be messing with the ecosystem.
Yeah, but anyway, though, my idea, I don't think you guys got to that one yet.
I don't think we got the screenshot.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. Let me just check the chat feed again.
Oh, you sent it to me, not to the chat.
Oh, that's right.
Hang on.
So anyway, though, I'm actually kind of set up to do this one, just because there is an easy way of turning a Starfleet security plot into a Risa plot, and that's just do like a Miami Vice style Hawaii 5-0 spoof. With Starfleet security. So basically just a sort of tropical themed adventure for security plot. So with like business developers i.e. Ferengi, or kind of more of an Agatha Christie style, people on vacation, political figures, and then all of a sudden there's murder and you got to sort that one out. But yeah, I just did Starfleet security beach patrol. Just to work that up in payment quick. But I mean, it's something that is pretty modular. I mean, you could fit it in because there's so many connections.
You need to do one of those things where you set up a YouTube playlist for people of like 80s music that they can play along with the mission.
Yeah. Or you give it a little bit of a vibe from that one Simpsons parody where they Skinner and Wiggum become Private Eyes in Florida.
In New Orleans.
Or, didn't we have that thing in TNG with Picard and his holo novels that he liked?
Oh, yeah, Dixon Hill. You could do a Dixon Hill style beach adventure. It'd probably be a little bit more Agatha Christie rather than sort of the classic 1920s and 30s detective novel. But you could do it. It's something that would translate.
It would be hard to find good assets to make a Dixon Hill kind of a thing.
I think you would just
Although
sort of
we got some more trench coats now.
Yeah, I think
So
you would
there's
have to
that.
do like just full on
Don't have any
Risa, and then
fedoras.
with lots of tries coat.
You'd have to take essentially the story and move it to a new setting.
Yeah.
You know, one of those
Well,
pulp
think about it this way.
detective novels.
The setting that for Dixon Hill wasn't inherently predicated on being a specific sort of location.
Yeah, because you could do sort of like a transplant with a Dixon Hill story, but like set with kind of the same style, but set in 2409 or 2411, and then just basically run through. And that might be an easier way to get around to builds, locations, and stuff like that. It's Dixon Hill in the future, because there may have been a Saturday morning cartoon show about Sherlock Holmes doing that exact same thing.
Maybe you could find have this modern day detective that was inspired by Dixon Hill.
Mm.
Or like
And he creates
watching
Dixon Hill as a photonic, as a sidekick for himself.
Okay,
Photonic
Or even just
there.
models his own life after Dixon Hill, except with
Yeah.
obviously a 2409 technology and style.
Which brings
I
us to, it's the murder mystery kind of a thing for plotline.
Although, if it was a murder mystery on Risa, I would definitely have to do Poirot style.
Actually, you know what? I think it would be more fun if you did the theft of some MacGuffin.
Theft of some MacGuffin, a countess is
So
killed,
it's the Maltese Falcon.
and there's
Exactly.
lots. Oh wait, there would also have to be a train section too for this to be properly authentic. So we might have found a use for Greendragoon's build from
Train
the
station, yeah.
the train station build from a few shows ago.
Because then you could do a little murder on the Orient Express too.
Murder on the Risian Express.
Yeah.
Where's on the right? Yes.
You had all these witnesses. You were taking them to the main city, and one of them was murdered on the way.
You have to have the accusing parlor scene.
It was Professor Plum with the candlestick.
First, you have to go through every single other character and say, you could have done it because you're a horrible bastard person, and no
Yes.
one likes you because you did X, Y, and Z.
Except you have an alibi.
Except you have an alibi. So I'm just going to go on to the next
Go on
one.
to the next person.
Well, you have to throw in some that are not quite so simple. Like, you are the kind of person who is just lacks the finesse required to wield the murder weapon precisely enough to leave so few traces.
Yeah.
And
Where's
it
the
turns
alibi? You
out
just
that
go.
Colonel Mustard is actually a changeling, but he's not the killer.
He was
Ooh.
he was a
Oh,
changeling.
we totally
He was
need to do it like where someone is a changeling.
Or you can even go one step further and just say, this person is a changeling who was in love with the victim's brother. But at the time, he was with the parlor maid. And then it's someone else. So there's
you can just go to
but-
ridiculous heights with this sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's a changeling. He is a suspect, but he's not the murderer.
Or like a changeling impersonating a Vendorian who's impersonating something else.
Or there's a Vendorian, there's a changeling, and there's an Undine. So there's 3 different shapeshifters.
Ooh. Add an elastomorph while you're at it.
4. We can
And
keep
a
going with this.
cameloid.
5.
5.
They're all in the same.
They're all shapeshifters.
They're all shapeshifters, and they all have a different and highly complicated personal motive for wanting the victim dead.
Wait.
Some owed him money, some were professional rivals, some had old bridge old squash game grudges. Proms at university.
Just to avoid leaving it out, put in the I forget the name of them, but there was this one shape-shifting race that Archer encountered in Enterprise.
The people on the Rogue Planet.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wraiths?
they were like some kind of animal that could reach into your thoughts
They were
and-
called the Wraiths.
Yeah.
And
I
just
don't know,
letting
I think-
people know in the stream, we are right on top of the largest tower by the promenade right now.
We also
you know,
talked over
you have-
the rematch of the Powerboard race. I got third that time.
I'm standing at the biathlon start point because I know where to find it when it's not visible.
I'll just beam there.
So we can see if Dragoon is going to win another one of those.
Well. Seriously though, you can see the biathlon start point on marked on the map, so you can just position yourself accordingly.
The endpoint is actually also marked on the map, even when it's not visible.
I don't know. I think it was one of the Denobian's 3 wives.
Oh God.
Is it that, or was it one of her 3 husbands?
Well, it turns out that one of them was secretly having an affair with a 4th wife.
Dun dun dun. But what about the sons?
They're
One
all
of
having
them-
affairs. It is that, it's that kind of mystery that always ends up happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Until they were
you
all
know
cut out
what?
of the inheritance.
I just thought of something that's awesome about that approach of having all those different races of shapeshifters, is that the methods of discerning whether they're the real person or not vary depending on what shapeshifting species you're dealing with. Because the race,
you'd have to go through a different process each time of figuring out.
the race, you can detect the pheromones they emit. Elastomorphs, they're actually an energy-based life form, so they kind of like have a little weak energy field to them.
What if the Elastomorph had a bottle of Wraith pheromone with him at the time and dumped it on the crime scene?
Trying to cast dispersion, trying to frame the wraith.
Oh, I messed up that corner.
I think Dragoon's gonna have to rewatch this episode, take notes.
One of these days, I'm just going to write down. We talked about stuff.
Let's see here.
This is all under one category, though, of something you could do as a Risa Summer Event themed episode if you wanted.
Changelings are actually, I think, the hardest one to detect because of the simple fact that they have that so great a range of transformation capability.
I bounced stuff.
We all missed the first ring.
Yeah,
I did
there goes
not.
Starbuck.
I always fly under the stupid thing. I've never been able to...
Yeah, I have no idea if I'm still in the race.
Well, you got to hit your flyer just as you're hitting the ramp.
Did you hear this annoying voice saying disqualified?
Nope.
Okay, then.
Well, that didn't happen last time either.
But you got to make sure you go through the first ring, otherwise you can get to the end and you're not going to be able to hit the thing.
You'll see the lady's face pop up if you get disqualified, even if you don't hear the...
Yeah, no, that hasn't been happening. And I finished this once somehow, and then recent times, I see this course, I just bonked off the ring a little bit.
I do know that getting disqualified does not actually give you a red X in the quest log, so yeah. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I got disqualified somehow because I can't pick that up.
Also, if you're not hearing a binging noise as you go through the rings, that also probably means.
And there's also no the one time I was able to finish it, I got waypoints. So I guess it's on the transition that wasn't.
Yeah,
working,
you will see waypoints on your map.
So it was probably on the transition that I wasn't able to get that one. But that's where I'm sort of a little down on the biathlon, because for some reason I got the transition to work the first time I did when I wasn't actually thinking about it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm always screwing it up. It seems really finicky.
The trick I've observed is simply don't do it too soon.
Well, that one I did it too late. It didn't work. Well, it's I was I sort of went over the ramp, and the floater didn't activate, so then I was on the ground, and then I had to float back around.
Maybe you missed a ring.
No, I hit the rings, but it was at that point I wasn't getting any indicator for ring hits. So it was at that point that I probably got disqualified. Nothing came up.
Or encountered some bug that made it not
that's
working.
been mentioned several times in Champions Online, since there's a similar event there called the Forum Malvanum, is that sometimes if you're moving fast enough, the game will simply not notice that you went through the checkpoint.
And I was getting I was up there. I got through the board section first, And I didn't go off the course at all on that one. I stayed really well on that.
Right, but if you flew through the checkpoint so fast that the automated camera didn't see you, well...
But that wouldn't have been an issue on the other times when I was using the basic floater.
I'm sure it just bugged out on you.
Yeah, I think it's bugging out where around the transition I'm just going outside whatever bounds it has, and then it's not working for some reason on that.
Okay, so here's a question: so what sort of Risian assets do we have in the Foundry? Do we have Horgons?
No, not the. Actually,
I thought we did. We got
As far as I
something
know,
Horgon
there
related.
I'm not
is
certain.
a grand total of 2 Vorgon NPCs in the entire game. Both
Horgon
of which
or wait, Horgon, not
The
Horgon.
Horgon, the little.
Oh, you're talking about the statues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is a Horgon,
and
but it's
that's-
like an oversized one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
the
that
big
is-
one like you see in the back of the hotel.
Oh.
Oh, check. I
that's
know
the
there's
second
some kind of
question,
Horgon.
Do we have any Vorgons? NPC?
No, we don't.
I kind of didn't think so.
Well,
I
Vorgon's
actually
not a proper faction like that.
Yeah, but
actually made one for a player crew I was doing. It's
I
sort
think
of
we do
a
have
poor man's
like
version.
parts to make them though. Yeah.
It takes some weird parts. You have to kind of use a tattoo to get the little mouth ridges.
yeah. So it's not.
It's a very poor man's version.
Yeah. So yeah, it's basically stuff from Agents of Yesterday. We haven't gotten those NPCs. So
That's true.
like
We got a huge selection of Delta NPCs at one point, but we haven't gotten it from Agents yesterday. Let's see. Trying to think what else. Do we have any buildings or do we have
We've
beach
got-
chairs?
We do have beach chairs, I think.
Yep, we have beach chairs and we have small huts.
Small huts, yeah.
I think we
And
also have the
stuff-
ability to
stuff
place
from the old
palm
map.
trees on maps.
We also have the alpine trees here too that are used. So we have got palm tree. Oh, we've got tropical resort trees. We've got, we got the foliage covered. The arches we've got covered in a smaller form, and some of the rocks too. So it's the exterior environment we've got. I think you might have to do a building like for the main structures. I think you're probably left with foundation blocks and making buildings out of what's a type 1 and then type 6. So the sort of the deep orange and then the standard brickwork.
And then we
Also
have
maybe some of the marble.
Obviously, we have a selection of the beachwear options for NPCs in the. Actually, there's some that are pre-made that are wearing beach stuff, Risian stuff, and it's also available in the character creator.
Yeah. Although we only have like the we don't have
Not
any
the newest stuff, of course. But.
Actually, the old stuff we have a pretty limited selection. We don't have any of the swimsuits. What we have are the sort of the button-up shirts and the Risa Explorer wear.
Yeah.
Here's a question that you probably didn't ever think to ask. Do we have the ability to place swarms of butterflies on the map?
No. Not that I know of.
Nope, but you can do
They're-
fireflies.
Yeah, the little dancing, clouds of little light. things.
I'm sure you can guess why I'm asking about this.
Well, I just saw some down on the ground there.
Exactly.
We're hunting for artifacts again, of course.
Oh, I was just I was running into things actually over by the resort. Yeah, we do have a good list of Risa background NPCs. So even though we don't have all the tailor items, we can certainly have a serviceable background.
There are some of these NPC costumes that are impossible to duplicate, though.
Oh yeah, like the the guy with red mustache. I showed this one on Twitter. He was quite disturbing. Red mustache, short shorts, and then white Starfleet Academy shoes and socks.
Well, there's actually
fashion
some
disaster.
of them that use costume parts that are unavailable to players in general.
Oh yeah, some of those the sort of the backup dancers for Zero.
One specific thing I was thinking of is how some of them have what looks a lot like the Mirror Universe dagger, but attached to a shoulder strap. It's kind of a weird looking piece.
And of course, there's the mannequins as well that we don't.
Let's
That would
see,
be kind of
what's
interesting to
another
have.
example? Oh, also some of the NPCs are actually Borg cooperative, and wearing a swimsuit. And we don't actually have the ability to make proper cooperative characters because they use a wide assortment of implants. Players don't have the ability to use as costume
There
parts.
are also androids, but we do have those ones in the Foundry, I think. As in the stock NPCs, not the ability to create a custom one.
Though we had the ability to create
potentially,
custom androids too.
I like custom Zindi. Because we can't do Zindi Reptilian.
All we can do is
We do
primate.
have a good, but we do have a good bridge officer for
Yeah,
Zindi.
and good luck doing an insectoid or a aquatic.
You can do that through miscellaneous dialogue boxes. Just show a
We could
He's
do
coming
our-
through the
There's
intercom.
one behind that wall.
Yes.
we-
No,
we-
really.
we-
He's very shy.
Well, we could do our boreals though. Our boreals aren't too different from things you can make in the Alien engine.
You'd have to play around with, but I'm sure you could get something.
Yeah, you could probably
You could get
do it.
a close enough.
Yeah, you could get close enough that it would be acceptable.
Jargon, I think we got your next character.
Zindi Arboreal.
Yeah. That would be a challenge.
I actually have a Zindi crew. I've got all the ships on one character, and I've got them all made up as primates, and then grabbed the reptilian guy off the low-buy store.
What the? I just noticed something weird. One of these NPCs just walked by wearing a shirt that's looks like tinfoil.
Oh yeah, that's that's another thing that we don't have. This weird sort of like almost like a TOS style vest.
So it's just this metallic fabric.
Yeah.
Managed to find my artifact early, so I just get to sit on the beach now.
Yeah, a little faster that time.
I wouldn't call it early if it took you more than 4 minutes.
Well, compared to last time.
Faster, essentially.
Ooh, here's one. Do we have this weird outfit with the suspenders?
Don't know which one that would be.
I think that's one of the wetsuits for the males.
Okay, well here this woman I'm standing next to is an example of what I was talking about with the little like knife and shoulder strap thing, because it's actually a variation of something that you see in real life for scuba gear, because it's like this strap assembly that you use to hold your stuff while you're diving.
9 minutes to the dance off.
I
Yeah, so
just
we
noticed another thing
definitely got to do that one.
that's weird about it is that she has the two bands around her leg like it's like for a holster, but there's no holster. Also, if you look very closely, she's Bajoran.
So one thing, of course, that we do have that you'd have to utilize for a Rise of Base Founder mission is the floater volumes.
Pretty much mandatory. Whoa, hello, check this out. This guy who is talking to that I was pointing out with the swimsuit is a Borg. It's an android. It's what you were talking about, Duncan.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, they've got Android vacation goers.
Androids need a
With a
vacation
weird-
too.
with a Colonel Sanders mustache goatee combination.
According to
He's
an
very
anecdote
cultured.
by Geordie, they took Data to the lake once.
Perhaps these androids are also flotation devices.
Yeah. Well, in the anecdote, data sunk to the bottom.
Well, there's also that scene from Star Trek Insurrection where Data explores the bottom of that pond by simply walking on it.
He has variable buoyancy.
Mm-hmm.
He is as buoyant as the plot needs him to be.
Exactly.
Because how did he service a flotation device? Did he, inflate?
Yes, actually he did.
Are you saying that Data floats or sinks with the plot?
Mm-hmm.
The movie floats or sinks with Data.
You know what? Here's something else that the NPCs have. It's what I call the wraparound snake swimsuit, because it has it's this really weird sort of from the back it looks like a standard swimsuit, except it has this weird kind of like a V shape in the back of it. But when you look at it from the front, it looks like this two pieces, one that comes up from the front and then goes over the left shoulder, and then one that goes from the right shoulder down across the front and to the left hip.
Yeah, there's a few of those cutout swimsuits. That might be it, but I'm not seeing where you're at right now. I'm playing the game of find where Dragoon has stashed himself.
I'm just sitting on the beach.
Well, I know. I gotta find which beach though. I can't rely.
I'll give you a hint. It's more of a sandbar.
Yeah, so I kind of thought it was back there, but let's see.
If I remember, one of the devs mentioned that that specific costume is one where they didn't build it originally with the idea of it being a player costume. So they would basically have to completely recreate it to make a player costume out of it.
Okay.
I will say, Risa can be very peaceful at times.
Zoom!
I spoke too soon.
Just did you say that? Oh.
Question.
I hope that's timed on the stream. I'm almost tempted just to sort of sit back and listen to her say, "Yep, there you go."
Your timing is, as always, impeccable.
Is it just me, or is the dance instructor in this instance a Romulan?
Yeah, it's Romulan Zero.
Oh, is it Romulan? Oh,
she's got Romulan ridges under her brows.
Also, you look at the pointy ears.
Oh, so there's more than so it's different from Foundry Zero. So we've got 3 zeros now. We've got Risa Zero, we've got Foundry 1, and then Mirror Foundry Zero.
Well, there's multiple dance instructor NPCs.
Well, yeah, but only one of them Zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's Rom Maria.
Here's another question. Do we have the swimsuit bottoms where it has the double straps on the sides?
I think so.
I wasn't sure if that was one of the variations that's a usable costume.
Yeah, so it's basically, if you're getting to something that looks like, design swimwear, it's probably something we have. It's like the more ornate stuff is generally the NPC-only gear.
Because that one thing they referred to as like the snake thing is that I've actually seen real swimsuits that look kind of like that.
Just showing off all of our exclusive emotes now.
And pretty much, no, I just find it funny. It's like you're doing the Mokbara, and then I've got air guitar.
Now we just need a Romulan to do It's a Fake.
I wish I had that one, because I wanted to get a screenshot of the male dance instructor coming up, and then my character just pointing, "It's a fake."
Where do you get that one from? Is it Mind Games?
No. Actually, it's one of the ones. It's the last one where you talk to Charva, because it's the one where you finally locked Charva up in your brig and then haul her off to the Romulan Republic authorities.
But Starfleet can't play that mission.
Does she ever show up
No.
again?
No.
Charva? No.
No.
See, her story is that she's apparently been so thoroughly brainwashed by the Tal Shiar that she can't really her mind just can't come to grips with the fact that she's been lied to, even when you show it to her. Like,
Yeah, she's still. I mean, even when you got in her brig and you've shown her all the stuff, and she's like, "Well, yeah, you might be right, but I'm still loyal."
Yeah. So it would be interesting to like bring her back now, maybe, or like during the Iconian War. But I think there's so many potential plot threads that Cryptic could do that it's just like, yeah. I mean, we still got to do something with Tovan Keev's sister.
There's several parts of that I think they intentionally left vague because, I mean, you don't really want to write all of the story out because if you do, then the player can't, make up their own.
Yeah, but there's a few of the NPCs that you could sort of keep going with, because right now we're just sort of at a point where
and they may want to leave some of their own plot threads unresolved so that they could resolve them if they ever want to.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Like with Rina, I mean, there's been some people who basically would take a random Romulan bridge officer and name that bridge officer Rina Kev and go from there.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. It would have been cool if you could they actually sort of codified that and included Rina as a bridge officer at that point.
Well, there's also if you know exactly where to look, there is a exclusive duty officer that's a unique one-off duty officer that you get from one of the Romulan Republic missions.
Is it Republic, or is actually that one is the Mine Enemy, isn't it? Where you go down, it's the one mission where you beam in with a single bridge officer and investigate the Romulan colony and meet the Horda.
Mine Enemy.
Yes, it is.
And you can get mission. You can get that one bridge officer too if you have a
Well, no, let's see.
The duty officer. The duty officer you can get.
The bridge officer was one of those limited time ones. If you're talking about the Riemann bridge officer.
No, I'm talking about is actually a Romulan bridge officer, if I remember correctly.
That's based on a character that you meet up with on that. You spawn in, turn around. This is during the standard Romulan story arc.
No.
No.
The Devex is a bridge officer.
She was a colonist who ends up on this place, and you can either have a bit of a backstory, or if you have Tier 4 diplomacy on KDF or Fed, you can also recruit her there too. You basically say, "Hey, come aboard my ship," and she goes, "Okay."
I had no idea that was there.
Right, if you're a Romulan, she's like, "Hey, I remember you from earlier when you helped me."
Yeah. So I think she may have been on the she may have been on the station. But I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I just realized that standing up here is less interesting than I thought.
Yep, because you get company.
Hey, this person standing behind me is almost the same as that other one I was pointing at.
Yep, the backup dancers are either the same or they're either identical or sort of based on a theme. So I know they've got different hairstyles. Okay, so they're different.
Or this is the real reason that everybody comes to the summer event, right? Dance party.
Do the snake!
Do the snake!
Yeah!
C0 does listen to your feedback.
It's weird that Robo-Zero is doing it. Wait, is Dance Zero becoming sentient?
That would be
I
the
wouldn't
end
put
of
it past her.
all civilization.
Dance club style.
So, I mean, I gotta say, I mean, the winter and summer event are pretty silly, but I love that they're in there.
Oh god, they're my favorite times.
There's room for silliness, for sure.
Yeah, and Rise is kind of like just a good thing for character development too, because you basically get to put your captain in a completely different environment. So there's a lot of
Which,
foiling.
kind of like the original Risa episode, right? With Captain Picard.
Yeah. And they're great maps, and they've got a lot of good items. I really like that they added all those bridge officer training manuals. I still have to get them because I'm still working through all my other priorities, but there's a lot of good options.
One thing about this event that's always amused me is when you have people that are not playing the English version of the game doing this. Because when you read all the descriptions of the emotes, it's in whatever language they play in.
Yeah. So there's also a new lore blog put out recently.
Oh yeah, that one
in
was
which apparently
interesting.
we are getting the return of Torg.
Yeah.
Maybe not just Torg.
There is
Yeah,
one that I
'cause-
didn't expect
and
to
Rhoda.
show up again.
There's
Maybe not just them. Maybe not just them. There's a little bit of speculation. There's a lot of speculation going on right now about who the next guest star is, based on what could be a throwaway reference, but the timing is very suspicious. So in the lore blog, it's Torg having all sorts of machinations, being really vague, saying, hey, the time of revenge is coming. We're getting weapons from our new allies, but there's worrying, but his subordinates are worried because there's reports coming in from the Empire about who their allies really are, or what trouble they're getting into. Basically, it's hinting that Torg is working with the Zenkethi, but he has a prisoner who he took 17 years ago. Which is
happened
when
to be the same year that a certain Klingon chancellor disappeared.
Well, yeah. So it's when Jim Pock took the throne from Martok.
Huh.
Interesting.
So we could be getting J.G. Hertzler in for the finale. Like, I'm thinking that we've maybe got 2 more episodes in the Zenkethi arc. One of which is we basically discover Torg's role and find Martok, and then the next one is defend Kronos from Torg.
Well, we all know what Torg's role is. He keeps the house while the master is away.
I was going to go official traitor, but sure that.
Torg, come out of the spaceship.
I was doing this event for 5 minutes before I realized I forgot to click on the mission pop-up button.
Oh no!
Oopsie.
But yeah, the new lore blog, it's basically one of those you can really dissect. And people are seeing that there might be references to the Zona in there, but I'm thinking that might be a little bit of a diversion with where they're in the context. It might be there, but it's just as a background.
It's clearly a reference to the Sona, but the real question is in what capacity the Sona are involved.
Yeah, because and
will that translate into something in game?
That's the translation part. So that's where I think that they're just like it's an easy way of incorporating something into the universe. Because in context, they're just intermediaries. So the Sona, well, presumably the Sona are delivering message between Torg and his allies, which are likely the Zenkethi.
Here's an interesting one for you though, is that
Wave your hand.
I'm waving my hands.
Think about the list of places that Vivat built crap, and how many of them were mentioned in this lore blog?
Not sure. I didn't pay attention to the locations on this one. I did notice that they did throw in a good Easter egg for the lore blog, as in one of the officers that was slated to be dealt with in Torg's crew was Kale.
Yeah.
We gotta hide the ambassador. He's in danger.
Well, what I was specifically thinking of is the Briar Patch.
Yeah,
Because-
was the Briar Patch actually mentioned? Because not thinking. I don't think that's like I've got problems on that one. Like, is that actually referenced? Because we also have the Gronkron Nebula, which also fits the bill and is a lot closer.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I suppose that either one of them would work.
Yeah, we got to go a long ways to get to Briar Patch, and it does fit the Sona, but the Sona aren't really the ones who are really. It doesn't seem like right now that they're key players, and
I'm mentioning it because we have the Sona and a Nebula, and
But it was a stench. It was specifically a stench cloud, which fits more with the Gronkra, as in the Kentari are polluting that area. So
does that actually extend into space, though?
Well, it's the stench cloud is basically the entire region, so it's more metaphorical. But then here's the thing: that's never been the description of the Briar Patch, though. It's not dirty; it's difficult. So the references from the Nebula.
It could mean, and maybe they're leaving things purposely vague.
Yeah, but I think it's just like I would say Briar Patch is a secondary possibility, because there is. The Gronkron Nebula kind of fits everything. It's the new Kentar. It's just what we did, and we still have to explain what's going on with that.
It's actually in a region in which we know that the Sona were trading back when they were involved in the Dominion War.
But we also have to go through with the current plot line. So we still in the current plot, it's still necessary to explain what's going on in the Gronkron Nebula. So to go then to the Briar Patch kind of just puts off what we've got to do with Gronkron. So in parsimony.
But by that token, the whole Survivors episode was quite a detour from the main plot. So I mean,
but
they could do that again. I kind of would expect them not to.
One rumor I heard is that Survivor was actually written several months ago, and that the devs had basically been sitting on it until they had a opportune moment to release it.
That's possible.
Yeah. So I mean, everything's possible with the fact that Cryptic could just do a complete one-off. But from my reading on the lore blog, there's a lot of potential connections to the main plot, especially with all the reference to the mysterious allies, their weaponry, the fact that they're enemies of the Klingon Empire, or they were involved in a war with the Klingons and might be again.
Actually, yeah, that's the most interesting thing is that the Klingons used to be at war with these people, and based on current events, probably will be soon. That fits
the Zenkethi to a T.
It does, yeah.
Because
we already know from Rodek coming in that he was brought in because he had experience fighting against the Zenkethi.
Yeah, so Cryptic made a point of establishing that in canon, because all we knew before was that the Zenkethi fought the Federation.
Of course, there's still always the question in my mind of, if they keep using Rodek, which is great, because, Tony Todd's awesome, are they going to, at some point, do any kind of reveal that he is actually Kern?
There's one person who would know that.
And they've used that person as an actor before.
They have.
Oh, actually, there's another one.
Well, there's several people who know.
There's two.
Bashir would.
Martok would know it.
Wave your hand.
Yeah, I suppose Martok probably would.
Yeah, so it's basically Rodek, and here's the easy way. You go you're fighting through Torg's facility, trying to investigate his connection to the Zenkethi, and you basically burst open the prisoner chamber, and Martok recognizes Rodek as Kern.
Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe Torg gets his hands on that information and threatens to put it out there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because it would be considered a dishonor.
It would be. Although, I don't know, maybe, Worf might have at some point regained enough honor to have it be okay again. I don't know.
Okay, so question. If Rodek doesn't remember anything prior to his new identity on Deep Space Nine, when did he fight the Zenkethi?
Sometime between then and now.
Because the Zenkethi War with the Federation predated Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, but the Klingons might have fought something against them since then. I mean, there's.
As
I mean, we're 40
belligerent
years
Rude.
from then to now.
as belligerent as the Sankathi are, it's not hard to imagine a small scuffle with them occurring in some random solar system.
Just dance.
We lost Duncan again. He's been having trouble with his internet going in and out, and frankly,
Yeah,
so have
that
I,
happens.
actually. It hasn't happened tonight, which is nice.
And I'm back again. Changed the
Um,
setting, and that didn't work.
Well, we've been a couple times through most of the summer events here, so I think that'd be a good place to end for the evening. So we will be back next time. We will do a review of the third and final mission for the Foundry Challenge and other things as well. So, Dragoon, if you want to put up our contact info.
Okay. If you want to reach us, we can be reached by email at foundryroundtable@live.com. We are also on Twitter. On Twitter at FoundryRadTap. Drogan can be reached at Drogan1701. Duncan can be reached at GorgonOps_SSF. Mark can be reached at Markhawkman. And I can be reached, of course, at Greendragoon.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for enjoying some fun in the sun with us. And everybody have a good summer event, and we will see you next week. But for now, we will say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.